Which is the better investment, the Roth IRA or the traditional IRA? Now, if you're new to investing, this is a common question that I get. And if you're not new to investing, then you're probably wondering, why is he asking which is the better investment? Because neither of them are investments. They're actually types of investment accounts. So what you need to understand, the traditional versus the Roth IRA, how they work will help you decide which one you want to choose. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, or if this is your first time at our channel, welcome to the channel. My name is Travis Sickle. So let's look at the differences between the traditional IRA and the Roth IRA in helping you understand which one that you might want to choose. Now, if we look at them, we're going to compare them from an investment perspective. So here's what we could take a look at. Let's go ahead and draw this out. Let's take a look at the Roth versus the traditional. So we have the Roth IRA and we'll have the traditional, or the TIRA, the traditional IRA. Now with the Roth dollars, these dollars go in after tax and these dollars go in pre-tax. So we really have post-tax, pre-tax. Now let's say that we have an investment that we put in $100 into the Roth side. So $100 is after tax. So let's say for this example that we're in the 15% tax bracket. So that really leaves us with $85 to invest. Now let's say that investment goes and doubles. That means we're gonna have $170. Now when we pull the money out of the Roth, because we've already paid tax on it, all that growth comes out tax-free, so the amount that we're gonna pull out is still the same at $170. Now with the traditional IRA, since it is pre-tax, the full $100 is actually gonna go into that account. And if we put it into that same investment, it's also gonna double. So that means it's gonna be worth $200. But when we go ahead and pull this out in that same 15% tax bracket, that means we're gonna subtract 15% and we are going to be left with $170. And look at that, they are exactly the same. Now, you might be wondering what happens if you have different investments? What if these investments do really well? So let's go ahead and go over that same example, but instead of just doubling it, let's 10x it. Let's go ahead and see what that looks like. So if we go ahead and put up a new piece of paper, so we can do some new math here, and you could probably guess what the results are gonna be, but we're gonna do it anyways. So the Roth IRA is going to have that same $100 and we're gonna tax it, left with $85. And instead of doubling it like we did before, we'll 10x it. So that's gonna be $850. Now that $850 doesn't get taxed because we're not gonna get taxed on any of the growth, and that's gonna leave us with $850. Now on that traditional IRA side, then we're gonna take that same $100 pre-tax, we're gonna 10x it to $1,000, and then we're gonna tax it. So we're gonna 10x it to 1,000 and then tax it, and that's gonna leave us with, what do you know? $850. Still exactly the same. So how do you make the decision between the traditional IRA and the Roth IRA? So the truth is that you can have any investment in the traditional as you can with the Roth. It doesn't matter. Now you might be limited where you're holding your investment account. So you have a particular firm, let's say that they only do ETFs or mutual funds and they don't allow you to own individual securities. Doesn't mean that you can't own a individual stock inside of the Roth or the traditional IRA. It just matters at that institution that you are holding it. So if you're like, well, that's not true. I opened up my account and I only have 10 options or 20 options, whatever, right? That is only for that financial institution. The same actually would be true with your workplace plan, where you're limited to the amount of investment options. So, we're talking about Roth IRA versus traditional IRA. It's no different than looking at your workplace plan with the traditional 401k versus the Roth 401k. Now, with the workplace plans, most of the time, you're limited to those investment options, unless you go to an IRA where you have a lot more options that you can invest into. But the traditional versus the Roth, those are investment vehicles They hold your investments. That what you put inside, that is your actual investment. So if you were asked the question, what is the rate of return of your traditional IRA or your Roth IRA? It's not really a question that has an answer because it matters about the investments inside of it. So trying to find the best Roth account or the best traditional account, or if you had experience with one or the other and you had a really good rate of return, you might think, oh, well, Roth IRAs just get better returns. That's not true. They're just taxed differently. That's all they are investment vehicles. So hopefully that sheds some light on the differences between the traditional and Roth IRAs in your workplace plans. And now all you need to do is go ahead and actually choose those investment options. Let me know in the comments down below if this has helped create a little clarity for you on the traditional and the Roth IRAs. And if you've liked this video, be sure to subscribe and leave your comments down at the bottom.